Start with a Flea Flicker to open up the night. And he connects with Galladay.
Sup, everybody. Welcome to our Week 10 recap of the Flea Flicker with Joey D and Timmy B. I'm Timmy B, of course, but Joey D, how are you doing today, my man?
We're doing, Tim. Another day. We're making it through. Rough Sunday, so carried over into the week, but we're hanging in there.
Yeah, hey, rough Sunday for the both of us, but luckily I think I won all of my fantasy leagues and some much-needed wins. I was on a little bit of a losing streak, so glad the team was able to pick that up. And thank you again to our pal Eric Sawyer for coming on of Splain Life Comedy. Definitely check out their channel if you haven't. I'll throw it again in the description. But these are a couple of funny guys with some great skits. But Joey D, we had a very interesting week of football. We had some last-second scores in the Bills-Cardinals game. We had a couple of key injuries, and our teams lost. But let's just hop right into the first game that we talked about, Joe. The Jacksonville Jaguars surprised a little bit of people going up into Lambeau Field and only losing by 4 points. They got a punt return touchdown. James Robinson was running the ball well against the Packers' run defense. But again, it's hard to beat Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams, especially on the road in Green Bay, and they still continued their chemistry. They still show that this is one of the best quarterback-wide receiver combinations in the NFL, and the Packers win 24-20. Joe, your thoughts from Jaguars-Packers?
Yeah, the Packers got the win. It shouldn't have been that close.
No.
This is definitely something to be concerned about as a Packers fan because, this is a one-win Jaguars team that they have no business competing with a team like that for a team that has, the aspirations that they do. I would definitely be concerned, going into the playoffs because, like we said, there's a lot of teams in the NFC that, are the top teams, but they're vulnerable. And the Packers are clearly one of them with just so many holes between their run defense and, outside of Davante Adams, nobody can really step up. Marquez Valdes-Scantling did make some plays using the referee as a screen. That was pretty dope. But props to the Jags for fighting and hanging in there because, this is a far superior and more talented roster in the Green Bay Packers. And, the Jags were still hanging in there and, one-score game, anything could have happened. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully the Jaguars can continue that luck this week. They got a matchup with the Steelers, so hopefully the Jaguars can pull off the upset. But yeah, you nailed it, Joe, with being concerned with the Packers. They're currently the number one seed in the NFC, and it looks even better now that Drew Brees is probably out for quite some time. So it's really anybody's conference, and I am concerned. If you're a Packers fan, I'd be concerned as a Bucs fan, Saints fan, Seahawks, Rams, whoever. Every team in the NFC has their vulnerabilities, so it's going to be interesting to see how the playoffs work, how the seeding works, and who comes out on top to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. But after we all missed on Thursday Night Football, we all got our first win with the Packers, so luckily the Packers did not screw us over, and we're all 1-1, and now we're moving to a team that I just mentioned, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We all predicted this. We said the way that they lost the Saints on Sunday Night Football in front of America on national television, we knew that Tom Brady and the Buccaneers would come out and dominate, and boy, did they, winning 46-23 at the Panthers. Ronald Jones had a 98-yard run. I believe it was expected to only get 4 yards, so 94, 95 yards after expected. That's like the best in the NFL. It was a great game. Teddy Bridgewater hurt, not serious, but he got banged up a little bit with that knee, and Christian McCaffrey looks to be out again for their game this week in Week 11. Joe, thoughts from this Buccaneers domination of the Panthers?
Yeah, you love to see Antonio Brown out there playing and making a lot of big plays. Him and Tom Brady definitely do have some sort of chemistry, I think, carrying over from last year. So definitely going to be interesting to see how his situation progresses, since I guess there was another incident with Antonio Brown, shocking to nobody, that I guess took place before he was signed. But, there's not a ton of details out about that. So, we'll see what happens. But, Mike Evans making plays, Chris Godwin making plays, Gronk with that huge, what was it, 44-yard catch and run?
Yeah.
Really, yeah, great play. Really just looked like the classic Gronkowski. So, definitely exciting to see for the Buccaneers to, kind of get it together and bounce back after that really rough loss to the Saints. So it'll be interesting to see if they can, kind of sustain this momentum. But for the Panthers, I mean, they weren't that far out of it, I think, until that Ronald Jones run. I think that was when, the Buccaneers really started to run away with it and really, just continue to put up some points. So that defense has to get shored up. They can't allow 40-plus points to, Tom Brady. That's – you drafted 7 players for a reason. You got to get that defense better. They got to learn on the fly. This is definitely a great learning opportunity for them. So, hopefully it carries over into next season. They can really take that next step as a defense and come together.
Absolutely, and good news for the Bucs. They did get the division win. They are 0-2 against the Saints, so they won't have the tiebreaker in that. But the Saints still play the Falcons twice and the Panthers one more time. So the Saints just need to win basically one of those games with Jameis Winston as their quarterback, and we'll get to the Saints later to win the division or at least win the tiebreaker should that happen. So the Bucs need a couple of things to happen, but now we're moving on, Joe, to the Washington football team and the Detroit Lions. The Lions came back, or the football team came back. They were down 24-3. They get it tied at 27-27. Too much time on the clock. Matt Stafford goes down. Matt Prater kicks a 59-yard field goal. Joe, I was watching this game with Tim. He is a football team supporter. This was a nap game for me. I fell asleep during it, woke up. The football team was down 7 points, but Antonio Gibson had a couple of touchdowns, so great news for the fantasy team. And we were watching, and they were driving on the first drive. They got to like the 25, 30-yard line in field goal range, put up the stats saying the football team has not scored on their opening drive this year, the only team who hasn't. And I was like, here comes a holding penalty and then a sack on third down. Second down, they did some end around, lost 8 yards. And then on third down, they did get sacked, so they got out of field goal range. So the jinx was alive. But Alex Smith, 37, 38 completions on 55 attempts. Were you surprised that he threw the ball so much, given J.D. McKissick, Antonio Gibson, and the running backs that they have? And then what were your thoughts from the Lions as well?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is that they got down early, and they let up that huge touchdown to, I think it was Marvin Hall, and then I think
wide open too.
Yeah, and I think Marvin Jones also had another one early. So I mean, they were just and then DeAndre Swift as well, who's also really starting to come on as that RB1. So that's exciting for the Lions, who need that run game to just be a threat and just be consistent. So definitely something good to see from the Lions, but again, it's got to be consistent, and it wasn't able to be throughout the second half, and that's why the football team were able to come back. And Alex Smith was just throwing the ball a lot, so I was surprised that they were kind of putting him at risk like that. But he's also cleared. He says he's good to go, and he's out there as the starter. And when you're down by that much and you're the starting quarterback, like, they got to get these wins. They got to try it. And they were close. Like, that would have been a really important win because, like I said, nobody in the NFC East is about to win a non-divisional game. So those wins are really important. Every win is important right now for the NFC East. So, props to them coming back. I think there's definitely some good pieces to build around in the future. In Washington. I mean, once they figure out who their long-term quarterback is going to be, that's going to, answer a lot of questions for them. But, right now they've got a good young core to build around, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And the football team we're seeing is the second half team. So Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio are making the necessary adjustments because in their 2 games against the Giants, they were down about 10 to 14 points. They end up coming back toward the end. This past week, they were down 24-3 against the Eagles in week 1. They were down and they came back. So they definitely are a second half team. If they can put it together for 60 minutes, they should win a game like this. So we'll see if they can make those adjustments in the final couple of weeks of the season as well in the offseason, looking ahead to next year, like you said. And now, Joe, we're moving to a game that was delayed. for a little bit. There was some lightning. There was some bad weather again. And I said this a couple of weeks ago. The Cleveland Browns are going to play a couple of these games guaranteed per year at home with the right on the lake with some wind, some rain. They did pull off the win this time against the Houston Texans by a score of 10-7. Super, super ugly game, but Nick Chubb is back. Nick Chubb was running all over the Texans. He scored the only touchdown for them. So, Joe, give me your thoughts from Texans-Browns.
Yeah, I mean, I think we said going into this with the weather looking like it was going to be like, just a slop fest, which it was. It was going to be ground and pound, and that just really favors the Browns. Like, they've got these two phenomenal running backs who, of course, the Eagles have to play this week. I think Jim Shorts said in his press conference today that these will be the first and second best running back that we played this season.
Sounds about right, yeah.
Including Ezekiel Elliott. So I thought that was interesting, which I agree with. These guys are just so dynamic, and you've got two RB1s, so one of them is always going to be fresh, always ready to go, and offer something different. So Baker really didn't have to do much, and this is what this defense is also kind of built for, with Myles Garrett, Olivier Vernon, all that front seven. Those guys have been able to shut down the run. But yeah, I mean, the Texans just weren't really able to get anything going on the offensive side of the ball. Duke Johnson, when he's an RB1 and is asked to run between the tackles, this is what we see. What was it, like 40 yards or something like that?
Yeah, it was not pretty.
Yeah. Again, it's in the rain, but he's just not that kind of running back. So, the Texans, they would have liked to have David Johnson for this game, but I still don't really believe it would have made ultimately that much of a difference.
No, I don't think so either, Joe. And I believe the early forecast for Sunday in Cleveland is rain. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that on Saturday for our picks to see if it's still going to be some sort of nasty weather for their game on Sunday. And now, Joe, it's time to talk about your Philadelphia Eagles. Daniel Jones gets his revenge. He rushes in for a 30-plus yard touchdown, and the Giants control the game basically from that drive. And as soon as they went up, it was almost game over. Giants win 27-17. Wish Sawyer was here to kind of shit talk you, Joe, but give me your thoughts on the Eagles' loss to the Giants on Sunday.
I mean, it's just completely embarrassing and unacceptable. I mean, we're coming off of a bye. We're healthier than we have been in weeks. And this offense and defense were both and special teams. It was all three phases just playing awful. I mean, on the offensive side of the ball, Wentz didn't turn the ball over, but there were no big plays. I saw somebody described it perfectly. Wentz finally played within the structure of the offense, but the problem is the structure sucks. So, we did not see those big plays. He did not play hero ball. He played within the structure of the offense, but there were also like missed throws, bad reads on his part as well. Opportunities that were definitely there. So, a lot of it falls on Wentz, but I think a lot of it falls on Doug Peterson too. I mean, we did not get Wentz rolling out in the pocket and on the move. When we did in the third quarter, he had two plays back to back, and it combined for like 40 yards. And then we put in Jalen Hurts, and it takes the offense out of rhythm. And then we don't see that for the rest of the game. We also didn't target Travis Fulgham once between his catch in the first quarter and then sometime deep into the third quarter. So it was.
You can't do that to a dog like Travis Fulgham.
Like Alshon Jeffrey, you're really forcing this guy into the offense. He had one target. He has been taking up a roster spot all season. He's not going to be on the team next year. There's no way. He's not good anymore. Like he doesn't have it, and you're forcing him into the offense, and it's taking snaps away from Travis Fulgham, Jalen Reagor, John Hightower, who are young guys who need to gain this chemistry with Carson Wentz for the future. In addition to that, who did he replace in the lineup? Who was a healthy scratch? Our second-round draft pick from last year, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, a healthy scratch in exchange for Alshon Jeffrey. This guy might get cut or traded like immediately. I mean, this literally might be it. Like, the writing is on the wall for J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. And the fact that Doug Peterson said they're only going to try to get Alshon more involved from here, oh, my God. So I'm very disappointed with the offensive game plan coming out of a bye. I mean, Miles Sanders was running well. Boston Scott was running well. And we stopped running the ball. I don't understand that. That was the only thing I was working on offense, and we stopped it. On the defensive side of the ball, this is a terrible offensive line. It's a bunch of backups. We have the most expensive defensive line in the NFL. They didn't do anything. You know, we had 1 sack on the first play, nothing since then. Our DBs were not covering anybody. You know, just no turnovers. I think this was the first game of Daniel Jones's career where he didn't have a fumble or an interception. So,
Good for him.
yeah, props.
It took like 22
Eagles
games, but he did it.
Props to the Eagles for allowing that. And then on special teams, just the punt game, like our receivers were just letting the ball go over their head. We just had terrible field position the entire game. Just terrible field position from our special teams in terms of where we were starting. And then we allowed, I think it was 40 yards on 4 returns to Jabril Peppers, something like that. He had a really nice return to put them in really good position towards the end of the game and really close that one out. You know, just all 3 phases of the game, just terrible. So it starts with the coaching. It also goes back to Howie Roseman. I mean, spending a second-round draft pick on a quarterback, like, you obviously believe that your roster is a lot closer to being contenders than they truly are. And I just don't know where you go from here. I mean, I don't know what the answer is because Wentz has regressed. Peterson has not shown the same creativity or, you know, ability to rally the troops like he has before. Jim Shorts has not been good, but Howie Roseman has also not assembled a good team for any of these guys to work with. So I don't know what you do. I don't know who you get rid of or what you do from here. It's really just – it's very discouraging. And, I mean, this is the first time we lost to the Giants since 2016. You know, this is bad.
Yeah,
it's
but I believe Jalen Reagor, the first-round pick, your wide receiver, had some pretty decent stats. Now I thought I saw a couple of catches for like 50, 60 yards.
He did okay. I mean, we were just trying to force the ball to him too much against James Bradbury. And, you know, Travis Fulgham for his, like, to, you know, I've been a real supporter of his, but the Giants' number 2 corner was on him. Like, you know, I was watching a couple snaps, you know, he just was not getting open against this guy. And this guy's a bum. Like, this is who people have been attacking. I don't even know his name. So very, very disappointing in a lot of aspects for this game. And, you know, I just can't continue to kid myself. Like, this is a bad football team, and it's not going to get any better from here. Like, the next 5 teams that we play, they all have winning records. It's about to get rough.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if the structure is not working, then, you know, you got to change the structure. And how do you look at it? You look at the front office, you see the coaches, you see the GM. So the Eagles definitely need to bounce back because the schedule is getting tougher, but everybody's still in a position to win the NFC East. So we'll see how this plays out in the second half of the season, Joe. And that wraps up the 1:00 games because of the Masters this past week. We are you and I are sitting at 4-2, and Sawyer is at 3-3. He picked the football team and the Texans, but he did pick the Giants to bring himself back up to 500. Now we're moving to the 4:00 slate, Joe. The first game, the Broncos and the Raiders. The Raiders forced a bunch of turnovers. Drew Lock had, I believe, 3 or 4 interceptions. He also got hurt a little bit. He might be out for this Sunday's game. And the Raiders just dominate the running game. Josh Jacobs was going off. Raiders win 37-12. I mean, if your quarterback's throwing 3 interceptions and then another turnover here and there, you're not going to win many games, Joe, especially going up against this Las Vegas Raiders team. What were your thoughts from this game?
Yeah, I mean, the Raiders just dominated them. Mm-hmm. The Broncos just did not come prepared. It seemed like, I mean, this is a young quarterback and a young receiving crew. What you have to do here is get the run game going and try to take a little bit of that pressure off of him. And Phillip Lindsay had a terrible game. Melvin Gordon did not make an impact. So you're asking Drew Lock to do a lot against, not necessarily a great Raiders defense, but they're a little bit more of a veteran crew. They've played together and they've had the same coaching staff for a little bit. They know the scheme.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing well together, and they're making a lot of plays. So, this is not a situation you want to put Drew Lock in. I just did not like the game plan coming out for the Broncos on offense. And then, on the defensive side of the ball, like you said, there were so many turnovers in this game that does put your defense in bad position. But they also allowed Josh Jacobs and Devontae Booker, former Bronco, with a little bit of a revenge game, to go off against them as well. So, just when you're running the ball well and your defense is forcing turnovers, that's a recipe for success, any day of the week.
Yeah, and this is a good news for the Raiders, too, because they are a better team than the Broncos, currently more talented, better coaching. The Broncos are still very young, of course. But this was the game where the Raiders had to win, but had to win like this to say, hey, people, like, we beat the Chiefs. We can blow out the Broncos. Like, we are here. We're going to be one of the AFC wild cards. We're here to make a deep playoff run. We aren't here to be that 6-7 seed and then losing to Pittsburgh or Kansas City or whoever in the first round. So huge win for the Las Vegas Raiders, excuse me, Joe. Now we're moving to a very hyped up matchup. Justin Herbert versus Tua. Tua got the best of Herbert this time. The Dolphins win 29-21. Both of these guys didn't do the greatest of jobs. I believe Herbert was the leading passer with about 190 passing yards. But both showed why they were picked so early. Both showed why they were given the starter job. Herbert, Tyrod punctured lung, but how Tua got the job. Again, the Dolphins defense, our guy Van Ginkel blocking a punt on the first drive of the game. I was shocked. I saw 7-0, and then I saw 1 play, 1 yard. I was like, all right, this is going to be very interesting. But the Dolphins defense, and Tua is doing just enough to win, which is what you need when you have such a young quarterback, is, hey, if your defense puts you in a position to win, we don't need Tua to do 450 yards, 3 touchdowns like he was doing at Alabama. So, Joey D, Herbert, Tua, thoughts from round 1 between these hopefully a while matchups?
Yeah, like you said, it's really interesting the different kind of situations both of these quarterbacks are in. Like you said, Tua is not being he hasn't had to do that much because his defense is making so many plays and putting the offense in such favorable field position or just scoring points on their own. And then on the flip side with Justin Herbert, he is the one who is having to throw for normally 350 yards, 4 touchdowns, and still manage to lose. Like, it is just such a interesting contrast of situations there. And, I like Anthony Lynn. I think he's a good coach, but it's clear, kind of comparing those situations, that there is a culture difference there. And Brian Flores and all of his team has bought in, because clearly when a guy like Van Ginkel is making plays for you, our guy right now, Van Ginkel, stud over, where has Melvin Ingram been? I know Joey Bosa has been injured. But I don't know if he played this game. But he hasn't really made an impact this year. Chris Harris, you spent a lot of money on him. Like, where's he been at? Casey Hayward, stud corner. Like, I know Derwin James is gone, but this one guy goes down and your whole defense just crumbles. Again, like, big names for the Chargers are not making plays. No names for the Dolphins are making crazy plays. It's such an interesting contrast with these two teams and these two young quarterbacks, that to me, it just really speaks to the culture that Brian Flores has instilled there in Miami. And, I'm really excited to see what they continue to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking in the car the other day about the Dolphins, being 6-3 or 6-4 now. If they win next week, they're tied with the Bills for first place. I believe it's 7-3. And I was like, you know what? I really don't hate the Dolphins. Like, I could get behind rooting for them for a game or two. Now, Joe, I'm going to put you on the spot here. I saw this last week, meant to bring it up, but I saw a tweet saying, if you had to choose between the 04 quarterbacks, Phillip Rivers, Roethlisberger, and Eli Manning, which one of these three, Joe Burrow, Herbert, and Tua, would you assign to? And it was like Phillip Rivers, a guy with great stats, just never won a Super Bowl. Ben Roethlisberger, above average, pretty good stats, a couple of Super Bowls. And then Eli, a couple of Super Bowls, but, kind of average stats. If you had to assign Burrow, Tua, and Herbert to one of the 04 quarterbacks, what would you go with?
I'd say Burrow for Roethlisberger, Herbert for Phillip Rivers,
Chargers, makes sense.
and Tua for Eli, just as the default. But I don't really see that being his future. But I see Joe Burrow as being the guy who's going to have a lot of great stats and great seasons and be able to get some Super Bowls in his career. If I would have to pick out of the three, and like we've seen already with Justin Herbert, like he's already putting up these monster stats, but still losing. Like, I could see him having his best year and then, making a way into the playoffs, but still not being able to go much farther than that. Kind of throughout his career, kind of similar to Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, it's interesting because these teams, the Bengals have had some bad postseason luck and when they were making the postseason with Marvin Lewis and Carson Palmer and Andy Dalton. The Chargers have had bad postseason luck. The Dolphins haven't, done much since they won Super Bowls with Shula. So, I'm kind of with you on that. If anything, maybe I say Burrow is the Phillip Rivers because we've seen him just put up absurd stats so far and throwing the ball a lot. Of course, we'll do that. I'll say Burrow for Phillip Rivers. I'll say Tua for Ben, pretty above average stats and, winning a couple Super Bowls. And then I don't know why, but maybe Herbert for Eli Manning, where he just kind of not falls into a couple of Super Bowls, but hey, the defense gets hot. You get a couple of plays here and there, some good plays. So I'm going to go, that's my three for now. I'm sure that'll change in the next couple of seasons as we see these three quarterbacks progress. But Joe, now it's time for the electric factory that is Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. I mean,
oh my God.
Wow. Cardinals win 32-30 against the Bills. A Hail Mary at the end to DeAndre Hopkins, triple coverage. He jumps up, he grabs it. Cardinals win the game. But, on the flip side, the Bills were down, 5, 6, 7 points. Josh Allen marches down the field. There was a great pass to Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs gets a good catch on to take the lead late in the game. But, man, Joe, thoughts on Bills, Cardinals, 32-30 Cardinals win. Give me your thoughts, man.
Yeah, like you said, absolutely electric game. I mean, Bills got up early and, they just kind of eventually took the foot off the gas. And, Kyler Murray was able to make a lot of plays for them to come back and, take that lead. And then, Josh Allen, great answer to march down, take the lead right back and, put the Cardinals in a position where all they can do is a Hail Mary and hope for the best. And, I mean, my God, DeAndre Hopkins, what a play. That's just unreal. So really fun to watch, heartbreaker for the Bills. I picked the Bills, it's a bummer, but it's also like, I mean, it's a fantastic play. And, they were like the Bills, they shouldn't really be that mad about that because they should have won that game. Outside of that play, like they won that game. I mean, so I feel for the Bills. That sucks. It's very unfortunate, but yeah, I mean, great play by Kyler to, extend the play enough and, give DeAndre Hopkins a chance in the end zone. And then I know Drake Kirkpatrick had at least one interception. He might have had two. Just a couple turnovers, from Josh Allen. He really, kind of gave that game away towards the end. Like I said, their offense taking their foot off the gas and the defense allowing a lot of big plays. Did Christian Kirk also catch a deep touchdown again?
Not sure. Not positive. I'm
sure
he did. He probably did.
I think he did. I think he did because he was in a couple of my fantasies, and I won in both of the ones that he was in. So hey. I think he did. Yeah, I mean, that Cardinals offense, like they've got to be able to be consistent and they've got to get their run game going. I mean, Kenyon Drake, he was, I think he did. I can't remember his stats. I don't want to say he did okay, but
I know he had a touchdown.
He had a touchdown. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I want to see more consistency from that run game and less of Kyler being asked to run and pass so much. I mean, I love it, but he's also going to have a lot of passes batted at the line, which, continues to be an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think my takeaway was the DeAndre Hopkins play at the end. There was 11 seconds on the clock. That was not a planned Hail Mary. They just told DeAndre to go to the end zone. And I think when he called it, there was 2 or 3 seconds on the clock. So if that was incomplete, then the Cardinals would have done the Hail Mary to send him, Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk down in the hodgepodge of defenders. So really credit for Kyler just throwing it up there and saying, hey, man, I got DeAndre Hopkins. But I liked what I saw from the Bills. Like you said, Joe, probably those couple of turnovers did it, but they were still in a position to win the game. And this is just another good win for the Arizona Cardinals come tiebreaker because Bills beat the Rams. Bills beat the Seahawks. Cardinals beat the Bills. So now when it comes down to tiebreakers, those common opponents are the AFC versus your AFC, NFC. That's just another win for the Cardinals. And they're in first place in the NFC West right now because they have all the tiebreakers. And now, Joe, we'll talk about the Seahawks and the Rams later, but now we're moving to a quarterback we were just talking about, and Joe Burrow going his first time into Pittsburgh. Not much I really have to say. I mean, he did as expected with a rookie quarterback going into Heinz Field. I believe the Steelers are like 13-1 against rookie quarterbacks at home, or number one overall picks at home under Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger. Steelers dominate 36-10. Bengals secondary was getting eaten up by Big Ben and Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool and even Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, the handful of plays that I was watching, Joe, they were just wide open the entire time.
Yeah.
They had a lot of green to run after the catch. So those are my two takeaways. The Steelers still remain undefeated, but, when you're playing a team like the Bengals with Joe Burrow and their banged-up offensive line, you got to win these games 36-10 like the Steelers did.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a strong victory by the Steelers, exactly what you would expect and hope for. Go to 9-0 now, I guess. So I mean, pretty crazy what they're doing right now. Going to be interesting to see how much they can keep it up or how much longer. But yeah, I mean, like you said, on the flip side with Joe Burrow, just not really able to get anything consistent going against this defense. He didn't really have much of a run game to help out and much of an O-line. But he was still making plays. T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd still, was catching a lot of passes. AJ Green continue to be an issue with him. I mean, at this point, I think you gotta let him go after this year because Joe Burrow's, giving him opportunities, and AJ Green's a guy who, he's been known for making those catches, and he's just not. So it's disappointing to see because I loved watching prime AJ Green. Like, he was elite. At his best. And, it's definitely disappointing to see this decline and him become such a mediocre and, now below average, it seems, wide receiver.
Yeah, absolutely. I enjoyed watching AJ Green too, except for when he wasn't having 4 touchdowns against the Ravens each game. But yeah, I mean, I think he's also on the franchise tag this year as well. So I definitely think the Bengals and him will part ways after this season. Bengals still in a good position to draft Jamar Chase out of LSU, that their number one wide receiver. So if we can get him and Burrow reunited, this Bengals offense is going to be pretty scary. And, with Mixon being out again, that was a huge takeaway from the Bengals offense. But Steelers win. They remain undefeated. A little bit of a score update. We are all 7-3, so somehow we all got back to even. We are all 7-3, and now moving on, Joe, to another game, much like the Steelers and Bengals, the Saints and the 49ers. 49ers go up 10-0 after a couple of turnovers, a couple of good special teams play. And then after that, it was the Drew Brees and Alvin Kamara show. Saints win 27-13. But what the big story is from this game is Drew Brees fractured a couple of ribs, got a collapsed lung or a punctured lung as well. So he'll be out for a while. Now it's time for Jameis Winston, but the Saints win this game, a game that they're supposed to win when the 49ers are so banged up. Saints are still in a good position. They are leading the NFC South, and as I was saying earlier, they're 2-0 against the Bucs. So all they have to do is just beat the Falcons one more time to get that 4-2 record at worst in the division, which would more than likely get you the tiebreaker should you guys have the same record. So, Joe, I mean, talk to me about this Saints 49ers game and the impact that the injury of Drew Brees puts on the Saints and the rest of the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, props to Nick Mullins and Kyle Shanahan, getting out to that 10-point lead early. Definitely scheming up, well against the Saints. But, that defense then bounced back and, only allowed 3 points for the rest of the game from there. And the offense was able to put up 27. So, like you said, Alvin Kamara went off. Love to see that. Have him in my
Yeah.
fantasy. So that's always nice to see. But yeah, I mean, this Drew Brees injury is rough because Jameis should have thrown at least one interception in this game. I don't know if you saw it, but it was dropped. Could have gone to the house. So I mean, we'll see. But he's got last year in Tampa Bay, I want to say he's got these weapons around him. So he can just kind of be a game manager. But he had weapons in Tampa Bay with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin,
Right.
OJ Howard, and now he's got Michael Thomas, he's got Emmanuel Sanders, and he's got Alvin Kamara. Jared Cook's. I just think that Drew Brees is able to kind of put the ball on these guys, and on these short passes and intermediate routes. He's just able to put it on them in such good position to run after the catch, with anticipation and timing. And Jameis Winston doesn't give you that. So I just don't think we're going to see the vintage Saints offense. It's going to be different. I think Taysom Hill is going to get a lot of work. Alvin Kamara is going to be, used heavily, which I love to see. So we'll see. Do you know who they play the next 2 weeks? I know that there's been an optimistic report that Drew Brees' injury could keep him out for 2 weeks.
No, I believe they play I know they play the Falcons 2 times in 3 weeks. So I would assume that's starting in the next week or two. So I would say they're probably playing the Falcons once. And I mean, they got a tough schedule.
I know the Eagles are in there too.
Yeah. So let's just say one of those games is against the Falcons. I mean, Jameis Winston should be winning that game, especially. I know the weapons aren't as good as Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, but let's not forget that Jameis Winston threw for over 5,000 yards last year,
Right.
30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. If he only threw 10 interceptions, he's probably winning MVP. And we're talking about the Buccaneers, potentially making a deep run in the NFC playoffs last year. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we know that he is talented, and I think Sean Payton is a great coach and a great offensive mind to build a game plan with Jameis Winston as your starter now to say, hey, we're not asking you to do Drew Brees and throw the ball out. We got Alvin Kamara. We got even Latavius Murray, not a bad running back. We got Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders for you. So, hey, man, just let's move the ball slowly but surely. Let's score a couple of touchdowns, and let's win these games 27-13, 24-13, and do just enough. When Drew's back, then we'll be good. But any other final thoughts from this 49ers Saints game, Joe?
No, like I said, I mean, defense was able to really bounce back and only allowed 3 points after, those first 10 in the first quarter. So, I mean, definitely, what you should have happen against a Nick Mullins and a veteran defense in New Orleans.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we're moving to the last game of the 4 o'clock slate. The Seattle Seahawks at the Los Angeles Rams. Joe, you talked yourself into picking the Rams. You ended up winning. I almost talked myself into the Rams, but we moved on to Sunday Night Football. I wish I joined you. The Rams win 23-16. Russell Wilson, he's not been looking like his MVP self. He hasn't been cooking.
No, he hasn't. Yeah.
My big takeaway of this was the Rams. They had 2 weeks to prepare for this Seahawks defense with Sean McVay and, some pretty decent weapons on that offense, only 23 points. But on the flip side, their defense had 2 weeks to prepare for Russell Wilson, and they did a great job. And then on the Seahawks side, my takeaway is they really need Chris Carson, Carlos Hyde, because I think people are realizing that, yes, Russell Wilson is an MVP and one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, but they got to establish some sort of running game. I mean, they can't – we've seen the last couple of weeks without Carson and Hyde, they can't get a running game going, which doesn't allow Russ to cook as much as we would like him to see. So the Seahawks really need to establish a running game for Russ to do his thing. But they're going to be just fine. But again, Joe, the Seahawks lost to the Cardinals, lost to the Rams. The Cardinals have beaten the Seahawks. They've beaten the 49ers. So the Cardinals could be the favorite to win the NFC West now because they have all of these tiebreakers. But Joe, talk to me about Seahawks-Rams.
Yeah, I mean, like I was kind of talking about, my concern was Aaron Donald versus that offensive line. And I didn't really talk enough about Jalen Ramsey and his matchup versus DK Metcalf because he shut him down. I mean, DK, did he have any catches? It was bad. He
was targeted, I think, only 4 or 5 times on the X amount of times that he was covering. So he might have had a catch or two, but I mean, still
Yeah,
only 1 out of 5, 2 out of 4.
exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, that I think that when Russell Wilson, when his first read is DK Metcalf and it's not there, and then you're looking to obviously Tyler Lockett, but that's where they're rolling coverage. I mean, it's a double team to Tyler Lockett and then Jalen Ramsey covering DK Metcalf, and then who else is going to make a play for Russell Wilson? And nobody was able to. And while he's trying to figure that out, here comes Aaron Donald. So that was the matchup that I really saw being so much more favorable for the Rams than the Seahawks. And then on the flip side, the Seahawks defense, as bad as it's been, I mean, they did only allow 23 points. But I mean, Cam Akers was getting going in this game. Malcolm Brown got a couple touchdowns. Darrell Henderson got one. The receiving game really did not make the impact that people were expecting for the Rams, but it was all the run game for them. So very, very interesting kind of approach from Sean McVay, I guess, anticipating that, people would, prepare to go over the top against that defense, in the past. And, just kind of came out with a game plan that Pete Carroll wasn't prepared for. So, I mean, a lot of concerns for the Seahawks, like you said, in terms of their division and their divisional record. I think right now they're in the number 7 seed if the playoffs were to start tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's not going to look good. We're going to talk about this in a handful of games, but they're the Thursday night game against the Cardinals. Luckily, it's in Seattle, but still a short week to prepare for Kyler Murray. So this could get really ugly for the Seahawks. Luckily, they do play the Eagles still this year, so that's at least another win on the schedule. But now, Joe, it's time. We talked about your team losing. Now it's time to talk about my team losing. The New England Patriots beat the Ravens 23-17 on Sunday Night Football. Here's my quick little Ravens spiel. Number one, very happy that this was not a Lamar had a bad game and, Lamar can't win, primetime games are against big opponents. I mean, he had 300 total yards, 2 touchdowns. Yes, he did have an interception, but, you'll take that, especially against a Bill Belichick defense and on the road. I mean, 300 total yards, 2 touchdowns. I'll take that every single time. And we just – I don't know what Greg Roman is trying to call. Let's just run the ball. I mean, J.K. Dobbins only had 13 yards. Mark Ingram had 5 yards. We had some snap issues. I don't want to say it was the rain because part of it is we've had some bad snap issues in the last couple of weeks. But again, 4th and 1, why don't we have the ball going to Lamar Jackson? Yes, it did work in week 2 against Houston. Mark Ingram had that touchdown. But there's a lot of things. Then defensively, we didn't have Calais Campbell. Brandon Williams only had 14, 15 snaps before his injury. And when you have, I believe everybody on PFF, the Patriots offensive line are in the top 10 or top 15 at their respective position. So when you have 2 rookies on the defensive line, Joe, you play defense, 2 rookies at linebacker, that's how you stop the run is your front 7. And when you have 4 rookies combined going up against the top 10 offensive line and Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels, they're going to take advantage of that. And that's exactly what they did with the run game. And then, so we really need to bounce back. We need to get healthy. We lost Nick Boyle to a big injury. And the Ravens are still going to be a 10-6 football team. Our December is, like I've been saying the past couple of weeks, Dallas, Cleveland, Giants, Jags. So those are very winnable games. And I still think that we have talent, but we're just riddled with injuries. Joe, the Eagles gave us the injury bug. Losing Rodney Stanley was big. We lost DJ Fluker in this game. And we need a lot to do offensively, and we still can't develop a wide receiver, and we need to get one for Lamar Jackson. Hollywood is not the true number 1. Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, Stephon Diggs, go up and get it. He can be a number 1 in the receiver in the NFL and for our team, but he needs to do it the Tyreek Hill, the Wes Welker, and get separation, get the ball, get in the open field, and utilize your speed and your athleticism. I think we'll be fine, but we do need Calais back. We do need Brandon Williams back because we got our pal Derrick Henry on Sunday. So if they're out, this could be a long, long Sunday for the Titans-Ravens. Like I said, I think we'll be just fine. I think we'll still end up at 10-6. But, man, we really got to be that 5 or 6 seed because I would much rather go to Indianapolis, Tennessee, Buffalo, even Miami than playing Patrick Mahomes in the first round or Ben Roethlisberger in the first round wild card weekend.
Right.
But yeah, that's my little spiel. I mean, the Patriots did, Cam Newton, the running game did great. Their defense stopped us a couple of times, and it was just an ugly game. But Joe, I'm done, man. What were your thoughts from Sunday Night Football and the Ravens Patriots?
I mean, you really said it all. Like, the run game for the Patriots, that was really the difference. I mean, it was just so consistent throughout the whole game. But like you said, with those injuries, that's something that's really hard to overcome. I think the Nick Boyle injury is really significant because you guys do move him around a lot. And he's just such a versatile role player, just kind of like that gadget guy that you can use in a lot of different aspects. So I don't know who you replace that with.
We just signed Luke Wilson from the Seahawks.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
we brought him in today,
Canadian
but Nick Boyle was probably our second or third best blocker when healthy after Stanley and maybe Orlando Brown. So we lose a huge piece of our offense and run game, and we've been using him in the passing game well, but continue.
Where's Mark Andrews been? Like, I've not really seen him show up for a while.
Well, I think that's what we're trying to do too, is because after we played the Bengals and a lot of other defenses this whole season is saying, hey, Lamar's just throwing to Andrews and Hollywood Brown, which is why the last couple of weeks we've been seeing Willie Snead, 5 catches, 75 yards and a touchdown or two. So I think we're really trying to say hey, we're throwing it not just to Andrews or Hollywood Brown. It's hey, we also have Willie Snead. And I don't know. I feel like Greg Roman, we're trying to get too complicated. We just need to run the ball, do our thing. That's been Ravens football, is run the ball and play defense. And, we still have Lamar Jackson, so we can still make plays, but Hollywood Brown needs to get separation. Mark Andrews needs to catch the ball when we throw it to him. But, yeah, he's been pretty AWOL the last couple of weeks and this whole season, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to, be successful in the rain. If you had told me that in a rain game with Lamar Jackson having 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, I would have guessed that they won that game. So, it's definitely disappointing to go up against, disappointing New England Patriots team and, end up losing that game. So that's the way the ball bounces. You hate to see it, but like you said, you guys have such an easy December that you should be all right.
Absolutely, and it could be worse, Joe. We could be 3-6-1. So we'll move
I was being sympathetic, and you can't come to me like that.
You got to. You set me up so well for it, Joe. But now we're moving to Monday Night Football. Pretty ugly game last night, but Kirk Cousins finally gets his Monday Night Football victory, beating the Bears 19-13. Dalvin Cook, he was only averaging about 2.5, 3 yards per carry, but when you run 34 times, I mean, he had 95 yards, so it wasn't his dominant stuff the last couple of weeks, but you're still feeding him the ball. He was still moving the ball. Joe, this wide receiver for the Vikings, Justin Jefferson, I don't know if you heard of him, but he had another fantastic game, another 6-7+ catches, over 100 yards. Adam Thielen had one hell of a touchdown. Well, he had both touchdowns, but he had that first touchdown was amazing. And then again, big story, like the New Orleans Saints, Nick Foles got knocked out at basically the last play of the game, and I don't know what his injury status was. I wasn't really looking into it.
He's
today,
all right.
He's all right. Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't as serious as they initially thought. I think it's like a glute and hamstring injury or something like that, or glute and back, I believe. But they're also going into a bye. They're optimistic that he'll be back. But I think Matt Nagy also said, when you're 0-4 as the starter, all options are on the table.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know about you, Joe, but I was surprised that it wasn't Trubisky after he went down for those final 2 plays. It was Tyler Bray. And maybe that was Matt Nagy saying, hey, we got 2 plays. Let's just put in this kid. Either get this game over or he's going to do some Nick Foles magic like he did a couple of weeks ago. But, yeah, speedy recovery to him as well as Drew Brees and everybody else that got injured this week, Nick Boyle and a couple of other players. But, yeah, I mean, Joe, any thoughts from this Vikings-Bears game? I mean, like I was saying, it was just kind of
Well, yeah, I mean, I was anticipating that if Dalvin Cook did not have one of his big games, then Kirk Cousins would not be able to get the win because, he'd be asked to, put this game on his shoulders. So with Dalvin Cook, what I watched the first half of the game and then watched the highlights this morning. And from what I saw, in both of those, Dalvin Cook was really just not much of a factor throughout the game. Like you said, he was just kind of force-fed the rock throughout the whole game. So, of course, he's going to accumulate yards after getting the ball so many times. But, yeah, I mean, Kirk Cousins, props to him making some plays, putting the ball where Adam Thielen can, make a play on it. And Justin Jefferson just, continuing to make the Eagles look like idiots. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, what do you want me to say? Like, I don't have any faith in Howie Roseman or this organization at this point. So, yeah, I mean, I might have talked myself into the Jalen Reagor pick, but, Brooke over here has been a huge Justin Jefferson supporter and was lobbying for him the whole offseason. So she's been hating on me for a little bit. She's nodding her head over here. She's been hating on me for supporting Jalen Reagor for a little bit. But we'll see what happens.
Absolutely, yeah. And the Vikings, they were 1-5 going into the bye. They've won 3 straight. They're now 4-5. They have the Cowboys this week. I believe the week after that they have the Jaguars. So as I was saying, they could be that 6-5, 7-5 team going into a tough December where I believe they do have they were saying it last night, but they have some tough matchups. I believe they have the Buccaneers as well as the Saints coming in December. So that's definitely going to be tough for them, Joe. But now that wraps up week 10 of the NFL season. Guess what, Joe? We all went 9-5. The curse has affected all of us. You went 9-5. I went 9-5. Sawyer went 9-5. So once we get super, super famous, we'll get these jackets out to everybody who went 9-5. So congrats on winning a jacket, Joe. And now we're moving to Thursday Night Football. As I said a couple of games ago, it's Arizona Cardinals at the Seattle Seahawks. Currently, the Seahawks are a 3-point favorite, and the over-under is 57.5 points, Joe. Give me a quick couple thoughts from this game, and who are you picking to win?
This game is so big for Seattle. I mean, I think that they know that they have really dropped the ball, literally, against a couple other teams these past few weeks, and like you said, against their divisional opponents. I mean, this game right here could effectively seal the division for Arizona. And to me, as well as Kyler Murray has been playing and as poor as Russell Wilson has been playing recently, I can't see it ending for the division like this right now. I'm going to go with Seattle and Russell Wilson at home to rally the troops and get the win, that they desperately need, because I just cannot believe that, as much as I like the Cardinals and what they're doing, and as poor as Russ has played the past few weeks, I cannot see this division effectively being decided in week 11. And, the Seahawks could be looking at the playoffs from the outside looking in. I mean, but the way Russ was playing at the beginning of the year, like we said, he was the favorite for the MVP. Mm-hmm. So this is just this has been very, very disappointing. The Seahawks, they have to win this game. All the pressure is on them. And I think with their backs against the wall, this is the kind of game where Russell Wilson, and again, at home, I know there's no fans, but, it's still there in Seattle. It's still, their territory. I really think that they're going to be able to get this win, but it's going to be a great game.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be a great game, and I'm with you, Joe. I don't think that the division is going to be decided in Week 11, but it's going to be between the Cardinals and the Rams in December, not the Cardinals and the Seahawks, or the Seahawks and the Rams. I'm riding hot. I'm riding Kyler Murray in this offense to go in and shred that defense. I'm betting the over. I'm betting the Cardinals team total over. Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are going to come in and win in this game. And people forget, Joe, when they played on Sunday Night Football a couple of weeks ago, if DK Metcalf didn't chase down Budda Baker, the Cardinals would have won that game pretty easily. Instead, it went into overtime. So I'm going with the Cardinals. I think the Seahawks, after this, getting the 10 days of rest from Thursday to next Sunday, they're really going to reevaluate themselves, take the weekend, and then they're going to have a dominant second half. Unfortunately, they're just not going to win the tiebreakers, and they're going to fall a game or two short of the division, which not the end of the world, Joe, because if you're that 5 seed in the NFC, guess who you're playing in the wild card? You're playing the NFC East. So that's why, even if they lose this game and they're the 6-7 seed in the playoff picture, they still have some games to win in December to get to that 5 seed, because they know, hey, we're not winning the division unless a lot of things happen. So let's just go hard. Let's get this 5 seed. Let's beat the whoever So I'm going with the Cardinals. Joe, you're going with the Seahawks. And when we talk again on Saturday, one of us will be 1-0. One of us will be 0-1. Of course, if they tie, which is a possibility. They almost tied a couple of weeks ago. But if you want to be our guest picker, make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and comment your pick of the week, or just comment anything in general. Do you like Terrell Suggs sacking Ben Roethlisberger over here? Do you like Joe's fan above his head? Tell us what you think, and also give us your pick. And that'll do it for this week. Joe, any final thoughts on Week 10 and looking ahead to Week 11?
No, nothing I could think of. It was a rough week. I'm just I'm not picking the Eagles again. I'll tell you that. I'm telling you that right now.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Alert.
I might be the first time I pick against the Ravens. So tune in on Saturday to see if I actually do pick the Tennessee Titans in the game this week. But thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate it. And enjoy Thursday Night Football. Enjoy your Thursday, Friday. And we'll see you Saturday. Peace.